In the desert, Agent Stipe and Lubinski visit a Mexican couple. Inside their home, they find the husband repeating the word rebirth and handing them rosary beads. He doesn't answer any questions, but his wife explains that he was once blind and has miraculously regained his sight. She leads them to the spot where an object fell from the sky, the origin of the strange events. Meanwhile, a mechanic named David visits the grave of his late wife, Jane, telling her their daughter will be visiting soon. On his way to work, David listens to news about an ongoing war. At the garage, his colleagues are idle due to the economic crisis and a lack of customers. Although David wants to keep the business alive, his boss announces that the garage must close. Just then, a war veteran named Zach comes in looking for a job. David has to turn him away. Later that night at a bar, David overhears a man insulting the American military. Zach, who is nearby, confronts the man. The man drinks Zach's beverage before challenging him to a fight outside. Knowing it's a setup, David follows and finds Zach being held by two men while the other man beats him. David's pleas to stop are ignored, so he joins the fight. Both he and Zach end up beaten. During the struggle, Zach's prosthetic leg is accidentally pulled off, revealing his disability, which causes the attackers to leave. David gives the prosthetic back to Zach and offers him a ride to the Veterans Center. After a tense conversation, David drops him off and returns home, nearly ruining his own birthday surprise. He finds his daughter, Annabelle, has prepared a cake for him. After wishing him a happy birthday, she breaks the bad news. She was forced to drop out of university because David's tuition check bounced. David promises to get the money, but Annabelle worries about him overworking. She ends the conversation by giving him a watch engraved with his name. Distressed, David wants a drink, but finding the liquor bottle empty, he decides to drive out to buy more. On the road, he is shocked to see a fireball streaking across the sky toward him. He swerves to avoid it, but his car loses control, crashes into a ditch, and flips over. Injured, David sees a figure walk by and musters his remaining strength to follow the woman. Despite his severe injuries, he follows as she calls his name in a familiar voice, but he collapses from his wounds. The next morning, Annabelle wakes up and realizes her father hasn't come home. Worried, she tries calling him with no answer. She contacts the police, but is told she must wait 24 hours to file a missing person report. She goes to the garage, but he isn't there. Annabelle searches the neighborhood until she finds his wrecked truck in a ditch, but David is nowhere to be seen. As darkness falls, Annabelle refuses to give up, using her flashlight to search the woods until the battery dies. She returns to her car and cries in despair. But when she starts the car, the headlights reveal David standing in the middle of the road. Later, at the hospital, David wakes up to see the same mysterious woman speaking to him. Meanwhile, the doctor informs Annabelle about an anomaly in David's medical records. It shows he donated a kidney to his wife before she died. Annabelle confirms this is true, but a recent X-ray shows that David now has both of his kidneys. Soon after, David is discharged, but the image of the mysterious woman continues to haunt him. He sees her repeatedly in visions. Finally, David sits in his late wife's old chair and lets his mind drift back to the events of that night. He remembers that while trying to follow the mysterious woman, he fell into the crater made by the mysterious object from the sky. It emitted a strange glow, and in an instant, finds from the object wrapped around his arm. That night, after Annabelle is asleep, David looks out the window and hears his name being called again. He follows the voice into the woods and discovers it's his wife, Jane. They embrace and speak gently before Jane shows him a vision of an impending nuclear war. She needs him to build something to protect Annabelle. After returning home, David turns on the news and sees the war situation is escalating. This convinces him to go to the barn and start planning. Meanwhile, Lubinsky argues with his superior, viewing the search for an alien rock as pointless with war looming. In fact, his orders were to cancel the mission, but Stipe ignored them, believing the alien technology could be the key to winning the war. Stipe and Lubinsky then travel to a lab. Only to receive bad news. The biological sample they brought from the desert has died, apparently unable to withstand high heat. Desperate for clues, Stipe orders an autopsy on the Mexican man's body. He assigns Lubinsky to inform the man's wife that her husband died of a heart attack. The next day, Annabelle cries while watching home videos. David takes out Jane's old truck and goes to the Veterans Center to offer Zach a job. They head to the woods where David has Zach operate a winch while he approaches the crater. He makes a surprising discovery. Grass has started growing around the alien object. David connects the winch and starts pulling the object out. Zach helps David lift the mysterious object onto the truck bed, but he feels a strange sensation and quickly pulls his hand away. When David gets home, he spends the entire day in the barn, building something and making plans. Annabelle notices her father's strange behavior. That evening, David comes inside to find Annabelle packing her mother's belongings, planning to store some and donate the rest for a fresh start. David disagrees, insisting they don't need to forget Jane to move on. Meanwhile, at the Veterans Center, Zach feels something strange on his thigh and discovers a bizarre lump growing there. The next day, Zach and a group of veterans join an anti-war protest in front of the military office, as police try to remove chains from a protester. A man walks by and spits in the face of Jim, Zach's fellow veteran. Jim gets angry and tries to retaliate, but falls from his wheelchair. Zach rushes to help. Seeing the situation escalating, the police order the protest to disperse. Zach then notices blood flowing from his own leg. In the barn, David discovers the alien object has been damaged by sunlight. Suddenly, Zach appears, asking what's happening to him. Annabelle arrives and sees a trail of blood on the floor. She rushes inside in shock to find her father treating Zach's wound on the sofa. Annabelle thinks they should take Zach to the hospital, but David refuses. He pulls back the blanket, revealing that Zach's leg is regenerating, just as David's kidney did. This is proof that the alien object possesses true healing powers. David tells Annabelle to look after Zach before heading out to his truck. That night, the agents hear rumors about an alien object falling in David's town. Lubinsky thinks they should follow orders and call off the search, but Stipe insists on pursuing the new lead. Back at the house, Zach panics from a nightmare about the war incident. That left him and Jim disabled. Annabelle calms him down before he goes back to rest. Meanwhile, David returns with 2 tanks of cryogenic gas. He tells Annabelle he needs to move Zach to the barn, and she helps him. Once there, David releases the cryogenic gas onto the alien object to keep its temperature low. He then has Zach sit next to it. As soon as Zach touches it, vines from the object slowly wrap around his arm, causing his leg to fully regenerate in seconds. Annabelle backs away as the vines crawl towards her, and the shocking sight of Zach's newly grown leg causes her to faint. While unconscious, Annabelle dreams of a time she spent with her mother before she passed away. She wakes up in the morning and, looking out the window, sees Zach walking in front of the house on his own two legs, looking stunned and overjoyed. Afterwards, Annabelle and Zach help David in the barn. He has just finished building a capsule resembling a bunker. The capsule is designed to withstand a catastrophic event that is coming soon. Annabelle starts to suspect her father might be losing his mind. David insists she can trust him. Later, David finds Tony at the junkyard to buy a small metal sample, and afterwards, they go to a bar where David gets Tony drunk until he passes out. David leaves Tony in his car, but not before secretly taking his keys. He and Zach then use the keys to enter the junkyard and steal all the materials needed for the capsule. They move everything to an abandoned factory they're using as a secret workshop, also taking a cement mixer. While driving through the woods, David and Zach spot government agents surveying the area. The next morning, Tony wakes up to find his keys still in his pocket. Meanwhile, in the woods, agents find the crater, but all that's left are fragments of the alien organism. The local sheriff suggests they talk to David, explaining he recently had an accident in the area but was found without a single injury. The recovered samples are sent to the lab. Scientists determine the object contains the DNA of various plants, animals, and even humans. They believe it might be an example of abiogenesis, the process of life arising from non-living matter, predating evolution. At the factory, David and Zach work hard on the capsule, using cement and reinforcing it with steel. They place the alien object inside to protect it from the heat. Meanwhile, Annabelle visits Jane's grave and decides it's time for her to move on. She gathers some of her mother's belongings to burn them, but is interrupted by the agents. They ask for David, and Annabelle leads them into the house to wait. When David returns, the agents begin their questioning. David claims he can't remember what happened after the crash, only that he saw a bright light that caused him to lose control. Stipe reveals he knows about David's regenerated kidney and shows him a photo of the Mexican man, who believed he was cured but is now dead. David takes the agents to the barn, claiming the alien object melted in the sunlight. However, the agents notice suspicious tracks on the floor. They pretend to believe David before leaving. Annabelle warns David that the situation is too dangerous and begs him to stop, but he refuses, insisting that Jane showed him. A coming global catastrophe. Annabelle retorts that he wasn't with Jane when she died and that the alien object might be manipulating his guilt. The next morning, David walks outside and has another vision. This time, he is horrified to see Annabelle engulfed in flames, but realizes it was just a nightmare. While David is driving to the factory, he notices agents following him. He quickly calls a friend for help, then drives around town to create a diversion. Finally, the agents pull the truck over, only to find David's friend behind the wheel, not David himself. Frustrated, the agents decide to use Annabelle to pressure David. Meanwhile, Tony's boss discovers the truck is missing and, after checking security footage, finds that someone used an employee key to steal it. Although the footage doesn't identify the culprit, Tony is blamed and ordered to get the truck back. At the factory, Zach continues working on the capsule, watching the vines grow inside as his thoughts drift back to the friends he lost in the war. When Zach gets home, he finds Annabelle waiting. She tells him how David neglected Jane. After her kidney transplant failed, as he was obsessed with working to pay for her treatment, Annabelle now fears her father is losing his mind again. Zach promises he will protect David. He then takes her to see his friend, Jim. to tell him there's a way to cure his condition. However, Jim doesn't believe him, so Zack shows him his own fully healed leg as proof. Still, Jim dismisses it as a trick and refuses help, even as his own health deteriorates. As Zack and Annabelle leave, agents move in and arrest them. Tony drives to the factory and finds David. It's a place they used to play as kids. When Tony sees the stolen goods, he panics, fearing he'll be fired. Tony tries to call the police, but a panicked David lunges for the phone, starting a fight. Tony punches David, who retaliates by kicking him into a table. The blow is fatal. When David checks on him, he discovers Tony has a head injury and is dead. Hearing Jane's voice in his head, David decides to burn Tony's body. He then opens the capsule and finds the vines have grown over the walls, becoming a living tissue. David sees a vision of himself dancing with Jane and slowly comes to accept what he has done. Jane tells him the capsule isn't for him, but for Annabelle and Zack. Back at the house, agents have Annabelle and Zack in handcuffs while a news report announces the war has escalated, with threats of nuclear weapon use. Stipe tries to persuade the pair to talk, but Annabelle and Zack remain silent. Seeing this, Stipe brutally strikes Zack's leg with a metal rod. Annabelle tries to intervene, but is pushed away as Stipe continues the assault. David returns home and notices the eerie silence. He finds the pile of his wife's belongings that Annabelle had prepared and sets it on fire. The guards outside see the flames and immediately alert Stipe and Lubinsky. Believing it's David, Stipe orders the other agents to investigate. Lubinsky takes 2 men to patrol the area. Meanwhile, David slips back into the house and threatens Stipe with a gun, forcing him to drop the handcuff keys. In that moment, Annabelle grabs the metal rod and strikes Stipe on the head, knocking him out. They quickly grab Stipe's gun, unlock the cuffs, and escape through a window. Lubinsky returns and fires his gun at Annabelle, hitting her with a non-lethal shot. David and Zack immediately fire back, wounding Stipe, and flee to their car. However, this is all part of Stipe's plan. He knew David would do anything to save Annabelle, so he begins his pursuit. Lubinsky feels Stipe has gone too far, but Stipe insists he's doing what's necessary to stop a full-blown nuclear war. During the drive, Annabelle tells David that Jane wants him and is waiting for him. Hearing this, David breaks down in tears. Arriving at the factory, David rushes Annabelle into the capsule, but there's no sign of healing. He feels a wave of despair, believing all his efforts were for nothing. Hearing noises from outside, David assumes the agents have arrived and begins pouring gasoline on the capsule, preparing to burn it. He is unaware that inside, the vines are slowly reaching for Annabelle's hand. Just then, agents burst in and try to stop David from setting the capsule ablaze. He refuses to listen. Suddenly, a fully healed Annabelle steps out of the capsule and sees her father holding a lighter. Seeing his daughter is safe, David extinguishes the flame. Witnessing this, Stipe doesn't hesitate and shoots David. Lubinsky, unable to watch, tries to intervene but is pushed aside. The other 2 agents join the fray, and the situation erupts into a firefight. Zack shoots one agent and engages in a gunfight with another. As Stipe prepares to join, Lubinsky shoots him in the shoulder. Finally, Zack manages to take down all the agents but is wounded in the process. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake violently. A bright flash signals the first nuclear detonation. Everyone knows it's just the beginning. People around the world emerge from their homes, looking to the sky to witness the event that will change their world forever. Everyone except Jim. As soon as he sees the nuclear explosion on the news, he decides to take his own life. Amid the chaos, David asks Zack to take care of Annabelle before pushing him into the capsule and sealing it. Inside, Zack and Annabelle hear the distant, thunderous roar of nuclear bombs. Outside, Stipe begs David to open the capsule, but David says he can't. At that moment, the alien object begins to fill the capsule with water. At first, Zack and Annabelle are nervous, but as the water fills the space, the temperature drops rapidly, freezing them into a state of suspended animation. Outside, David takes his final breath. His spirit is reunited with Jane, who is waiting to welcome him in the afterlife. The nuclear war engulfs the entire planet. Eventually, the capsule opens. Annabelle and Zack awaken to find the world outside is nothing but ruins. Trees have overgrown the capsule, and the surrounding steel structures are covered in rust. They realize that centuries have passed, and the film comes to an end. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you never miss an update. Thank you.